Everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Gospel Manager. We are so excited because we have approached the weekend. Today is Friday, the beginning of the weekend, and so we're glad that you could join us in this live stream this morning. Now, don't forget a few housekeeping rules. You could actually send in your questions now via the comment section of all the social media platforms you're streaming, and if you're watching via other platforms, the Honor TV and the YouTube, please note that you could also send in your questions via email at thegospelmanager@gmail.com, and also via WhatsApp and Telegram text at +234-9047533019. My team and I will collate your questions and share them on this live stream. So please share the links of this stream to your friends, your family, to that friend who has shared a very heavy burden to you concerning her marriage, ministry, school, academics, career, business. Let them know that they could actually be part of this stream and send in their questions and get a first-hand answer from God's servant as he gives them profound counsel on how to go about them. Not alone on this episode, God's servant is live with me in the studio, and I just want to step back for him to give his opening remarks and set the course for this episode. Good morning, Dad, and welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you, sir.
Yesterday at about 11 p.m., it came very strong in my spirit about the nature of self-destruction, and I'm going to explain why. Why would somebody have a prayer group that he prays with at 12 midnight online, but cannot pray with people in a gathering at 11 o'clock? That is a self-destructive mentality. You can pray at midnight effectively, but in a public gathering where people see you cannot pray effectively. That's a self-destructive nature. How can somebody be in a marriage and then there is a partner who is trying to reduce value by making the function of the family not go effectively, and then one of the spouse cannot make amends and correct? That's a self-destructive partner. How can a member be in a church and works against the church, carries false rumor, make wrong representation? That is a self-destructive nature. How can somebody be in an environment and does not deal with costs, rather increases costs? That is a self-destructive nature. And that is what we have today, self-destructive people. And it's just everywhere in the state of life. And nobody wants to understand how to deal with life properly. And I came into a conclusion: people are not developing their minds. Because if a man is progressing in his mind, there are certain things he will fight for, he will stand for, and his attitude will progress into maturity. Can you imagine somebody not praying in the morning, not behaving well, not progressing in thought? You're not progressing in your mind. You keep repeating an error, an error, an error, an error. The thing is, you have a self-destructive mentality, and it now leads to annoyance. And when a man is self-destructive, the next thing you see him is annoyance. He starts getting angry unnecessarily, talking unnecessarily, behaving unnecessarily, looking unapproachable, looking uncorrectable, and looking unteachable. And these are very, very strong tendencies that can ruin any person in life. And we must watch this self-destructive nature that is treating in every part of human life. How can you support a person more than the rights of the person's destiny? You are supporting somebody's life because of relationship instead of the person's destiny. These are two different things. The person's life is not a problem. The problem is a deviation from destiny. And we have too many self-destructive people leading people away from their destiny, but appreciating their lives, the relationship they have with them. They don't want to offend them. They want to keep them by their side. They want to please them, but they are taking them away from destiny. Destiny is a stronger path towards the fulfillment of the human nature. And let us know, if destiny is not fulfilled, the human nature is useless. There is nothing about the flesh without destiny fulfillment. If you take away destiny, the man is useless. So let's stop fighting for man and fight for destiny. And when you fight for destiny, you fight for man. And let's start killing this self-destructive nature that is ruining every fabric of the man's life. I believe this will help one person that God has a message for this morning.
Very well said. God's servant had obliged us that destiny is the stronger part towards the human nature. So we're so excited. Again, tell your friends that God's servant is live. Already you could hear the level of wisdom already dispersed this morning. So we're going to go straight to the questions. We're going to have to deal with the questions we've had across the week, throughout the week, and then we move on, taking questions sent to us live at this live stream. All right, this question says, this is from Mr. Benout from Port Harcourt, Rivers State. They said, good morning, Bishop. I have been following your teachings online. I have been blessed by them. Thank you so much, sir, for your messages. But I have my question centered on leadership. Two questions, sir. Number one is, who is a leader and how do we elect or select a leader? And number two, how can people under a leader work with a leader that is never satisfied with their work, even when the workers are giving their best?
How do you know a leader? Is your act of servanthood. The man who learns will lead. The one who doesn't learn will not lead. The word satisfaction has to be defined by vision. If it's a personal satisfaction, then it's wrong. If I expect people to satisfy me, then it's wrong leadership. But if the satisfaction is based on destiny assignment, and the people are not meeting up to that, then it's the people's problem. An assignment comes with a tax and comes with an expectation. If you are not meeting that assignment, then the leader is not the problem. You are the problem. If you have met the class of what you expected to meet, and there is a complaint, then that's the leader's problem. And 90% of the problems we have today, we have people who don't understand the tax, they don't understand the expectation, so they just feel, I have done it. And I've always said, doing it is not what makes you do it. It's doing it accordingly, progressively. That we don't go back to something you have taken care of. And because if we keep going back to something we have taken care of, that means we have not done it. If you have done a thing, we shouldn't be going back to it again. Why would I go back to a thing that you have done? Because you don't know how to do it. That's why we are going back to it. If you know how to do it, we won't go back to it again. And then if you're not learning that you don't know how to do it and improve how to do it, you start getting defensive. That simply means you don't want to understand the roles you have to play to become relevant, because relevancy is tied to the results you produce. I have said here in this platform that people live by instructions. So when they are instructed, they act according to instructions. But if you really check, they were not relevant in the place. And I've always said that you are hurting yourself. They'll do everything you ask them to do, but there's no impact in their works. So it means they were there, but there was nothing impactful they were giving to the system. The leader will not say, this is what the person created outside me. This person has done something so well that I cannot even do. That is the thing. That is what I produced while I served. I brought out things, not breaking the laws in the system, but produced my own impact in the system that the system adopted. So till date, my prints are still speaking for me in the system I served. So that is what I'm talking about. Don't go out of the tax. Make the tax look that it is you that owns it. A leader should not be coming back to you. If they come, they should review it and say, well done. Not saying these errors are too many. It means you are not there to fulfill the tax. You were there to be involved in the tax. Those who involve in taxes will only be there to see the work, but they don't have the mentality of seeing the work come into a fulfilled end. That is where leadership is always having crisis with people. Fulfilling the tax, not just doing the tax. Doing it is not a problem, but doing it to the standard expected is where we have a problem. And 90% of people today who do things on behalf of leadership just go there and get themselves presented, but they are not really understanding that I can be relevant with one tax. I've always told people, you are a leader, behave and act like one. You are leading, act like a leader and fulfill assignments as a leader, because records are very strong. Records are our testament of the future.
Thank you so much. Records are testaments of the future. So not just do a tax, fulfill it at the base expected. Now, Jude from LMA, River State says, good morning, Bishop. Sir, speaking on the issue of leadership, there is one question that has always come to my mind. It says, sir, please, how can men work with a leader who has anger issues and can't control himself when angry? For example, he insults and calls people working with him or her all sorts of names. How can we work with such a leader?
See, the problem is not the leader with anger. The problem is the people who don't know how to do their jobs. I have worked with people, leaders who have some certain weaknesses. But why was I not in their bad books? It's simple. What gets a man angry should be your lesson. And what does, because the angry man is also sometimes happy. That angry person gets happy, does things happily at times. So what are those things that make somebody angry? You have to know. And what are the things that makes the person happy? So pick the spots that makes that person friendly than picking the spots that makes that person angry. And then you don't blame people for their anger, because what you create is what you will receive. You have the option, life and death are placed before you. Choose life and live. So it's a choice. I can decide not to get somebody angry no matter how angry he looks, because I have now know what it takes for him to get angry, and I don't want to be in that kind of situation. So I avoid anything that will get me there and do everything to be in the books where I will be appreciated. So the choice of people's actions is in our hands to define. The way you behave, I can define my actions towards you. What are the things you hear? What are the actions you see that makes you get angry? And I avoid it. If I have not served somewhere, I will say, yes, I served somewhere. I saw people go through a lot of things with voices and with actions. I never went through it once in my life. There was no time I was called to a meeting where they had to shout at me, because I just understood who the person is and avoided the things that would give me a problem and do the things that would bless the work and bless the man. So I was keen on raising the work and raising the man's image. You can never find me in a gathering where the man has to suspect me. I never was found there, or had to think about my loyalty. No. Or had to hear a conversation that I contributed. My own was if you are out of his life, you are out of my life. If you are against him, you are against me. So I didn't have that luxury for double-faced life. I was very direct. And at the same time too, I want to make sure that I am not a problem. So you have senses. That's why God gave you 2 eyes and 2 ears, is to see and to hear. So when you are making those mistakes that they have to talk to you, the problem is that you are underestimating somebody. You are insulting the person without knowing. When somebody is talking to you often about you, that simply means you don't have regard for the person. And people don't like their respect at that level to be challenged. So when they start acting on you, you look as if it's a problem. But you have 2 eyes and 2 ears to understand how to treat a leader. So you will not bring that is ugly parts to your life. I stayed there. I never had those kind of crisis. Never had it today. I've known that man for many years. I never had. Because God has given us the senses to know what to do. Studying people and know how to approach them is the best key to life peace. So there's no excuse to give about somebody's anger. You can avoid it.
Thank you so much, sir. All right, we have a question from an online streamer. It says, "Good morning, Bishop. I'm a young man who is very aware of my capacity, direction, and what aligns with my purpose. But right now, the system I'm working under is pressuring me to take a path that I know will not only frustrate me, but could potentially push me into decisions that go against my values and long-term goals. This isn't about fear, laziness, or a refusal to grow. Far from it. I'm not confused about my potential. I'm simply choosing not to be led under something that feels off course for me. I've communicated this politely, but now I'm being made to feel like I'm ungrateful for speaking up. How do I stand my ground without burning bridges or being misunderstood?"
I don't know the situation, so I can't dive into decision making for him. All I would say is that we live in a very, very, very unguided generation today. So let him be careful with his decision and also try to make consultations to get to know what to do in that. But if it's somebody that can reach me, then we talk privately, then I can assist. But I want to say that studying conditions and acting on them, make sure when you act, you are not wrong. Because if you act on it and you are wrong, then it doesn't make any sense to me. So whatever you do, Paul said, do all things decently and in order. So that's the culture for us as Christians. Though you have a right opinion to give, but make sure that your approach does not lead you into crisis too. So that's all I will say about that.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, another person is asking another question on leadership. He says, "Good morning, Bishop. Still in the issue of leadership, thank you so much for your light that you have thrown. But, sir, is it bad for a leader to apologize to his workers and respect them?"
There's nothing wrong in that. Apology is not the problem, is who you apologizing to. It's not a problem to apologize, and it's not a problem to respect people. As a matter of fact, respect is something you should give to everybody. Everybody deserves to be respected, not because they are workers, because they are human beings created by God. They should be respected. When you had a belief, I have done that a lot. You expected something and you misinterpreted it, and apologize to that. That is not a problem. Because in case you misinterpreted somebody, and then the person get to discover that you misinterpreted, you go to apologize. It's a part of saying that you're a man and you can make mistakes. So there's nothing wrong in doing that, as long as people don't take you for granted. That's all. But you should know that if apology is given to you at one time, there is a mistake on your part, you should also know how to go back to the people who always come to say sorry to you too. Because sometimes they may be right, sometimes you may be wrong. How you trade it is what matters. But it's not supposed to be a thing of demand. You don't demand for it. It's something that is given. If it's not given to you, it shouldn't be a problem too. Because sometimes we try to instruct those who are instructing us and try to get things out of them the wrong way, and it ends up a problem. So you can do things moderately and make sure it doesn't cause harm to people, which I've always said to everybody. Treat people well, and then they will treat you well. When you don't treat people well, I know people today, whether you treat them well or not, They have their actions and the way they act, but treat people well. And the result and effect of that will speak at one time around you. But if you misinterpreted somebody and it led to crisis as a leader, apologize. But not apologize when somebody was corrected. No, that one is different. But if you misinterpreted a situation, believe something that you are not supposed to believe, but you concluded over somebody's life that you are not too sure, go and talk to the person. And the person should be spoken to. I didn't understand that, but now I know better. Bear with me. And every normal human will understand that you mean well for them. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Now we go into ministry, and we have a message from Pastor Hezekiah. He said, "Good morning, Bishop. Sir, please, what should a young minister prioritize in building a lasting spirit-led ministry?"
Studies. Separation from all these distractions. Studying, separation from the media, build a strong prayer life, and reduce relationships. That's your, if you can handle that now, early for yourself, it will help you a lot. Also.
Thank you. And another one says, "Good morning, Bishop, sir. Sir, please, how do I know I'm truly being called into ministry and not just moved by my emotion, pressure, or passion for God?"
Your works, nobody teaches you how to eat, and I won't teach you how to know God. Your works for God is there. It's showing. I've always said that people who don't have love for God, it's not hidden. It's not hidden. When I see you pray, I can tell you. When I see you study, I can tell you. When I hear you preach, I can tell you don't have love for God. You're preaching, you're ready to preach. It's not your lifestyle. When I see you pray, it's not your lifestyle. So those are signs that you don't love the Lord. They are there. If you love the Lord, there are certain things you should take serious. Reading the Bible and prayers. Fellowshipping with God will be a part of it. You will even be angry. People distracting you when you are praying. Because you love the Lord. You love His word. You are always studying Him. So the signs will be there. Even with these heavy distractions on phone, the signs will be there. You don't teach that. You just leave it naturally. You want to have a quiet time. You want to pray. You want to study His word. It's just going to be your habit. Literally. Nothing will interest you than these few things I just mentioned. Nothing. Things that pushes people's interest will not push your interest. So when you don't have all of that, then you should be conscious of the deviations you're creating for yourself. As a matter of fact, every human being needs that kind of life to survive here. Because of the nature of cruelty we've pushed ourselves into. So you must hear from God through prayers or through His word or through fellowship with Him. It's a mandatory act now. It's not whether I have time. You must do it every day. It's not all the time God will speak to anybody to speak to you. You have to also hear God yourself. As I'm going out today, as I'm doing this today. So all of those things cultivates that pattern of ministry. So as you progress with it, clarity will begin to come in your life. Some might even doubt if they are called into ministry. Life is patterning your life, but you don't want that pattern. Maybe God has seen something in your 20 years and is beginning to build you for it. But you, with your carnal disposition to life, you don't pray, you don't read the Bible, you have a wrong surrounding, so you just feel it's because somebody now that's privileged to be in church and they has the privilege to be called an evangelist and he's fighting with that. Instead of thinking of the 20 years of his life, why did I get here and why is this thing happening to me at this time? He's fighting with tomorrow, and one day you discover that finds himself in a very critical situation and needed that oil for survival. So because God does not make mistakes, He plans ahead of you. So trying to kill that aspect of your life It's the thing I'm sad about. Why would you kill that aspect of your life? Say, I'm no more a pastor, I'm not a businessman. You are no more. Every Christian is spiritual. You will need that force one day in your life that you were supposed to be developing every day of your life, growing it, sensing God, hearing from God, and you just bluntly just killed it because of your self hunger for material things that will come and go. All these things will come and go. One day, everything you see in this life will come and go. So I pray that man has understanding.
Thank you. This other one says, "Good morning, Bishop. Having heard you speak about, um, having heard you speak about what you said previously, responding to the previous question, sir, please, I feel ashamed asking this question because I have been told I am called. I have also tried to faithfully serve God, but I keep struggling with sin. So the question is, can someone be called and still struggle with sin? What's the path forward? How do I handle it, and how do I prove my works?"
I just said earlier about people being careless over things. And when you have the privilege of growing, you are busy getting yourself to things that will attach you away from what you're supposed to grow with. And then tomorrow you discover that path you were trying to destroy was the best path God gave to you. Was even the reasons why certain things even happened to your life. So let's be careful to know that certain privileges in life came because of certain things that happened to you. Don't destroy it. Grow with it. Develop yourself. Improve it. And see where life will take you to from here. By saying that you're going to scatter that process, I don't know what you're trying to do for yourself. But I will advise that he goes back to the process and try to take himself away from that sin and grow himself with strength and see how far God will carry him.
Thank you so much. Now, this one is now relationship and marriage. And Uzuamaka is asking, said, "Good morning, Daddy. Please, sir, is there such a thing as the one in Christian dating, or is it about wise choices and godly counsel?"
I have always said that we should do more in building relationships than just having conversations. So life is too explanatory now. So you must. The one can be a choice you made for yourself, can be a direction, but to me, the one should go beyond that. As talking about the invisible actions of men, you should start looking at things that will be troublesome more in a man than the things that are positive. And when we can handle those areas of people's lives, they can easily live with us. If I can take care of the things I don't like in your life, I think I've solved 90% of my problem. And that is what we should be looking at and trying to make sure that I don't only have conversations. What about corrective conversations? How do they take it? And these things have to be asked. And those are the parameters to judge if somebody can stay with you. Because if that man is God's choice, God will not teach him character. You have to teach him. You have to grow character yourself. So let's try to understand certain things that needs to come to place when it concerns relationship, and that will help us.
Thank you so much, sir. This one said, just came in now by WhatsApp. It says, "Good morning, Bishop. My name is Joshua Kamebo. I'm watching via Honor TV, and I want to ask this question, sir, about marriage and spiritual intensity. Sir, please, what should I do if I'm engaged with someone who doesn't share my spiritual intensity?"
We must be very careful with how we grow. And the communion together, we may not get the same level of communion at all levels, but we may get one common ground, the fear of God. So if the fear of God is intense, then it's okay. We may not get one common hot spiritual ground. This one is prayerful, this one is not prayerful, but they pray. As long as the person fears the Lord and has love for God, that's okay. So we can trade from there. But if we are trying to wait to see for intensity to grow, we may wait forever. Because God will bring people to you. It's either for you to sharpen them or for them to sharpen you. So that is the purpose of people coming together. So, but fear for God and love for God is what you should look at. Then every other thing will play itself in a man's life, in marriage.
Thank you, sir. So whilst we were talking about this, something came to my mind, and I just want us to talk about it, especially on this live stream, because we in terms of marriage and also service in church, we tend to focus more on the role of serving God in a department. But I want us to talk about serving God in a ministry, like a men's ministry, women's ministry, children's ministry, youth ministry. We don't necessarily really talk about that, especially in conversations, both in church and outside church. I just want us to throw more light so that people can get to know the benefits of, yes, you are serving in the choir, for example, but you are a youth. How can you also use that same energy to serve God committedly in the ministry?
The problem is the benefits assurance that the church is presenting. That's even the problem of the church. And that has to stop. The church should not be presenting benefits. The church should be presenting a communion. When you get into a church, there are communions you should meet. The men's ministry is a communion. We relate together. And in that communion, anything can play itself in the communion. So first, the sellage of communion in the community must be built. Men relate with men. Women relate with women. Youth relate with the youths. The purpose is simple: for communion. Communion together as Christians in church and Christians outside the church. And that communion will also lead to marriages, burial crisis, career crisis, and all of those things that people face. That communion will now get into people's life. And why not? You begin to see personal assistance coming out of that same community for people. So our selfish point should not be that. And then if there are benefits coming out of that, we're all going to eat of it. But we need to develop that strong communal mentality that people should know that we have a communion system that can be subscribed to and will end up becoming very positive to anyone who gets themselves engaged in it.
So much, sir. All right, we'll take this one from John Paul. John Paul says, "Good morning, Bishop, sir. Please, sir, how do I balance my passion for ministry with building a sustainable career?"
There are certain things that what you heard from God is what you should carry out. I had mine. I'm carrying it out the way I heard it. So whatever he has heard, definition should become the issue. If it's to build a world-class system, then there are certain diversions that he doesn't need. If it's to build a system that will not go anywhere, then you can trade on the diversities of life. So I always say this: we get into full-time because of the nature of our callings. So if your calling is not the one that will lead you to an explosive ministry, that's your choice. But remember, that is a decision you take, hearing from God. We have been rebuked severally to give ourselves to what we do because of the assignment ahead of us. So these things are very spiritual and they have long time explanations to make. And that's why we should not put greed and self-achievement into it. You should not carry because you have a family need or money interest and define a calling. You regret ever doing that in your life. You shouldn't be defining your calling by the needs around your life. So let's be careful. These things are very delicate and people are getting into them very wrongly and making a lot of mistakes and saying that they are helping themselves. But they are changing that calling from their lives and making their lives look as if they are supporting themselves. So let's be careful. Sometimes God needs dependence, God needs loyalty, God needs sincerity, God needs a total giving. But you as a man who wants to tell God you have needs, will do whatever you feel, not what God wants you to do. So let's try to know what God wants us to do, not what circumstances wants us to do. So when we can define that, then we can trade wisely over it.
Okay, the same John Paul is asking again. He said, "Good morning, sir. Please, sir, thank you for answering my questions. But this last question from me, sir, please, how do I find my calling when I have multiple interests and talents?"
You see, I'm from the school of thought that anything you have has to first excel in a place before you even start talking of ownership. Who have you served? Who have you expressed that thing to? So if you have not expressed it anywhere, then to me, that's not me talking about things you've not expressed. First express that thing somewhere. Joseph expresses his dream in his father's house. Joseph expressed that dream in Egypt, in prison. So that guy's destiny was clear. He was effective. So get effective wherever you are. That system should be benefiting from you first, before we now start talking of ownership. But today's world, people have not created lasting impact. They are crying for ownership. And that's why the money they make is small. Money interest, because you are pursuing ownership when you have not created impartition. So let's create impact first before we start talking of ownership. When we do that, you get clarity and proper direction for what to do all the time.
Thank you, sir. All right, this one says, Bishop, let's talk about our politics now. Yesterday, the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar had resigned from the People's Democratic Party, even though in his letter he also stressed that he was part of the founding fathers of the party. And again, I think for the second or third time, he is resigning. The reason for that, he said, is due to some irreconcilable issues in the party. Now he has moved on to another party, which we all know he championed the coalition. What's in it for us in 2027? And owing to his actions of decamping and coming back and moving from one party to another, would that be a right counsel for him? And sir, please, finally, if you had to cancel Atiku Abubakar as well as several of our politicians who also do the same, what would be your counsel?
I'm going to use a family to answer that question. Just imagine a young boy who gets married and has a business. And all of a sudden, the wife is saying that she needs to be the owner of the business. And then he now says no, and she says she's going to leave the marriage. So while they are struggling for it, she now found her own passion because the husband refused. And so her own passion, then neglected the husband's business entirely. Then one day the business started growing. She now comes back again and said She does not want the office. She just wants to be a part of the. Because of his wife, he got her in. One day again, she got up and found her. So the thing is this: the interest to lead the country is the problem, not the interest to lead the people. If it is the people, then this diversion should not be there. If it's the people, then if the people don't want me to lead them, then I go and sit down somewhere. But the interest is to be president, not to lead the people. So that's where you see all these defection playing themselves. Is to be president. Because if it is a vision a man has, you shouldn't be forcing people to accept your vision now. Sit down and fight for a younger generation to be a part of that system. I keep saying it. As long as there are no young men from 40 to 50, to me, it's just a game of the same ideas and programs that will play itself. So whatever you're seeing happening here is people that want to become leaders, not that they have the interest of the people they want to lead. So because those examples are not there. So the only way I would have advised him, if I had to meet him, is to look for somebody who will sponsor to be president, not himself. And ask all his friends to support the person to be president. Then he will not become a relevant figure in the system. Not him anymore. That's my opinion. And that's what I feel that wife should be doing. Support the system. Don't fight to be leading the system. Support the system. The rules you have to play the rules well. Influence the people. Make the people do the job. In case it's a husband, make the people do the job. He should make the people do democracy. He's an old-timer in the system. So I expected that even this coalition they are doing, he would have subscribed that we get a younger face, a new face into the system. And all those big wigs come together and support the young man. Sponsor, give monies, give time, give ideas, and make him win. That's what the president of this country did when he was trying to get into power. He sponsored the system, and now he decided to run for it. So let us know that transitions to other parties don't win elections. It is developing systems that win elections. And it takes time to build a system. The man in power, it took him time to build what he's enjoying now. And he has not really built systems that work for him. So that's the problem. The systems that he has built, they are more of personal interest. And that will really not give him the testimony he deserves for being president of this country.
So that means the thin line between being ambitious and having a never giving up attitude is interesting.
The never giving up attitude has to be placed properly. If you are not placing that attitude properly, he still will not make any profit. So he's putting his ambition to become a leader of this country, but not considering developing structures that will take him into that kind of place. He wants to enjoy structures that others have built, but just using, as he's been an old-timer, that everybody will accept his desire. And the more he pushes, the more he fails. The more he pushes, the more he fails, because the records are out there staring at him to the face.
Thank you so much, sir. All right, so we'll take this next online question. It says, "Good morning, sir. You're a real gem and a genius. I appreciate God for placing so much life solutions in your hands. Something scares me badly in this life, and this is the act of forgetfulness and double standards of people. People forget good moments, sacrifices made for them, lessons taught to them in a second. People can be taught every day and still do the opposite of what they've been taught. People can receive impartation today and act in a way you cannot imagine the next minute. People can be something in front of you and something else outside of you. Please, sir, is it that humans are wired to always forget? Why really do people not subscribe genuinely to lessons and teachings? Why are people dishonest and double-faced?
I can't explain why, but I will only say that as we grow in life, people are becoming very unreasonable now. Very unreasonable now. So when you hear conversations of people, you just tell that they don't know enough. Somebody who knows enough, who considers conversations that is held, who considers impact. It's like I consider the impact of who I serve till today. Who considers impact, who considers the values of teachings. There are certain things you will not do with your life. And there's this fear that comes into your mind over certain things you want to do them. You just, no, I can't do this. No, I can't say this. So when we are losing touch of reasonability because studying has reduced a lot. So we need to go back to reasoning and proper studying. I feel that will help solve all of these crises I see everywhere. How people just get up and automatically just start acting as if they've never been helped before. And it's an amazing thing to see. But I just also feel that knowledge is contributing to that. They don't know anything. A man who knows something will not act anyhow. A man who knows what to do will not act anyhow. Will act reassuring, will act responsible, will act respectful, will act in honor. Because he knows that the relationships he may need in the future. So he tends to make sure that he keeps them, no matter how bad he thinks about things. Some people are very poor managers of tomorrow. They don't know that tomorrow can play back, because you cannot define that one. It can either play back against you or it can play for you. So do be careful to know how you manage the future, and it still boils down to your actions. So let's be careful and get knowledge. Knowledge is the reason why people do what they do. They don't know. Because if you know, it will change your approach, it will change the way you behave, change the way you live, change the way you talk, change the way you act, because you know now. So my subscribe here is people should read more and tend to talk better and see better with themselves, not stay negative, because that's the thing that destroys people's mind. People just stay negative over a lot of things, and it's bad for their production.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, this question came in now. It says, "Good morning, sir. My name is Julian. And sir, please, I am a bit worried having heard what you had said concerning the Atiku Abubakar situation. I'm a bit worried about the church, and it keeps me thinking, sir. Sir, please, how come we have not been able to raise someone from our Christian fold and throw it on him who will cause a national transformation? My last question will be, how can we, the church, raise believers who will lead in the national transformation that we seek?"
Is the courage culture of our people in church. We don't have very strong courage culture people in church. Believers in church are more divided than people outside the church. So if we want to rule this country, we must have very strong courage culture men and women in church. People whose decisions within the church is influensive and outside the church is influensive. So people who come to church, they are not strong enough to bring that image. There's some people who have very massive followers outside the church, but very poor followers inside the church. So those kind of leaders will not be church leaders. They will end up becoming ungodly leaders because they don't have any strong impact within the church. So we need to start raising strong, valuable leaders within the church who will be able to face that sector of life. Right now we don't have it. And we don't have it because the people don't understand what they need to do outside the church. Politics is a training of growth for every man. But preparing to do that, the church has to pattern men for it. And then their influence now starts from the church and spread to the world.
Thank you so much, sir. All right, so we'll take the last question for this episode, and it talks about personal development and character. And this person is asking, this is Felix from Jos Plateau. He says, "Good morning, sir. Sir, please, what's the right way to set boundaries in friendships without being unkind or carnal?"
Make your decisions known on time. This is how I behave. This is how I live. This is what I do. When you make your decisions known on time, that will set the pace for the structure of that relationship. If you are my friend, there are things I don't do. I don't go out. Don't call me in odd hours. I don't like certain conversations, and I will tell you straight. I don't have to wait until, so if you can cope with that, yeah. You cannot cope with that, bye-bye. So define yourself before people, before they even start with you. And when I keep hearing people having issues in relationship, I'm laughing at them. You enter the thing without definition, so you come out from it. So define yourself. Define who you are to people, and then they will respect you for who you are. And when you do that on time, it keeps you in a relationship, and the person respects you for that. Not for how you look. Because of your capacity to say no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes. I don't go out outside 7. I don't do video calls at night. I don't call at night. I stay at home. I have things to do. I don't go out like that. You define it, and anybody who is responsible will respect you for it. So that's just how to go about it. And it's bad for their production.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, this question came in now. It says, "Good morning, sir. My name is Julian. And sir, please, I am a bit worried having heard what you had said concerning the Atiku Abubakar situation. I'm a bit worried about the church, and it keeps me thinking, sir. Sir, please, how come we have not been able to raise someone from our Christian fold and throw it on him who will cause a national transformation? My last question would be, how can we, the church, raise believers who will lead in the national transformation that we seek?"
Is the courage culture of our people in church. We don't have very strong courage cultured people in church. Believers in church are more divided than people outside the church. So if we want to rule this country, we must have very strong courage culture men and women in church. People whose decisions within the church is influensive and outside the church is influensive. So people who come to church, they are not strong enough to bring that image. There's some people who have very massive followers outside the church, but very poor followers inside the church. So those kind of leaders will not be church leaders. They will end up becoming ungodly leaders because they don't have any strong impact within the church. So we need to start raising strong, valuable leaders within the church who will be able to face that sector of life. Right now we don't have it. And we don't have it because the people don't understand what they need to do outside the church. Politics is a training of growth for every man. But preparing to do that, the church has to pattern men for it. And then their influence now starts from the church and spread to the world.
Thank you so much, sir. All right, so we'll take the last question for this episode, and it talks about personal development and character. And this person is asking, this is Felix from Jos Plateau. He says, "Good morning, sir. Sir, please, what's the right way to set boundaries in friendships without being unkind or carnal?
Make your decisions known on time. This is how I behave. This is how I live. This is what I do. When you make your decisions known on time, that will set the pace for the structure of that relationship. If you are my friend, there are things I don't do. I don't go out. Don't come in odd hours. I don't like certain conversations, and I will tell you straight. I don't have to wait until, so if you can cope with that, yeah. You cannot cope with that, bye-bye. So define yourself before people, before they even start with you. And when I keep hearing people having issues in relationship, I'm laughing at them. You enter the thing without definition, so you come out from it. So define yourself. Define who you are to people, and then they will respect you for who you are. And when you do that on time, it keeps you in the relationship, and the person respects you for that. Not for how you look. Because of your capacity to say no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes. I don't go outside 7. I don't do video calls at night. I don't call at night. I stay at home. I have things to do. I don't go out like that. You define it, and anybody who is responsible will respect you for it. So that's how to go about it.
Sadly, that will be the last question for this episode. I'm going to leave the floor now for God's servant to give his closing remarks and set the course for a bless us for the weekend.
Let's be the reasons why things work. You know, I was looking at the Garden of Eden. Can you imagine Eve being the reasons why that fruit was not eaten? That would have been a massive thing for Adam. And just imagine the reason why things work, not the reason why things are destroyed. Man is telling to destruction than progressiveness. Let's be the reasons why things are working. Let's just be the reason for it. At any frame of life, be the reason why certain things are working in a system, whether in a church, whether in a family, whether in an office. Just be the reason why things are working. You may not know how impactful that will be. You may be changing a lot of lives if you are the reason why things are working. I ask that the Lord will give you the wisdom to have the best of weekend. God bless you.
Wise man once said, behind everything working is someone working, and God's servant has told us to be the reason why things are working. So you become wise, helping and assisting systems and people to work effectively, and that is why we say here, the life is beautiful, and you, my friend, can handle it. We'll see you when Gospel Manager returns on Monday at 7 a.m. God bless you and enjoy the rest of the weekend.